We're good.
Hey guys, welcome to Tally the Votes, where we cover all things reality television. And right now, we're getting ready to cover Australian Survivor Week 4, episodes 10, 11, and 12. And just a little disclaimer that we're throwing out there is that we, in no way, shape, or form, claim to be professionals. We're here to talk about something we love, and we're just fans of the show, and more than fans, we're friends. So we love to get together every week and kind of discuss our thoughts and opinions. And we really hope that you can join in on the chat and share your thoughts and opinions with us. Um, David, David, it was a rough week for me and my favorites pick. I already lost one. We're at that not quite halfway mark, and I've already lost a winner.
It's just another season for you.
Yeah, that's just pretty typical for my luck. Here's the deal. If I pick you, you aren't long for the game. That's not actually true. I have picked winners in Survivor before. I have picked winners in Big Brother before, but it is a running joke that my senses aren't always the best because I tend to think with my heart more than my head. So, and apparently so does Jordy, because when given the most obvious decision in one's life, he chose to ignore all of the whispers, unlike Shawnee, and just roll with the punches, and it punched him right on out of the game. So let's cover his episode of Doom, because there was some really good moments in it before he decided to not make the call he should have.
What did you think of
Liz
the
here.
strategy? What did you think of,
You know what?
let's dive right in. Liz
Let's
finds
do
an
this.
idol. He's been given an idol, right?
Yep, yep, yep. And okay, so first and foremost, I just have to throw out there one of the things that I really do love about the Australian platform is when we get to have the mat chats. When we go into competitions, I love how much these players are utilizing that time now that they've had to swap around in their tribes to be able to communicate across the lines. It's created some really complex situations this week, especially. Um, but when Jordy decided, well, okay, Jordy and Liz decided that they were going to orchestrate this move with Haley and Nina and pressuring them, putting their feet to the fire to pick a name. I've got to say, on one hand, I thought it was excellent strategy in the sense that they were forcing them to make a move that was going to put a crack in that alliance. And if that was Jordy and Liz's only true goal, then they succeeded magnificently. And in the long run, Liz still came out pretty well, no worse for wear of the situation. But it was a little like, hey, we're gonna make you do this thing, and then but then we want you in an alliance with us. So
Yeah, we're gonna say first I'm going to blackmail you, then I want you to be my friend.
yeah, like Haley said, oh, I'm not threatening you. So yeah, maybe that was a little risky, but it was damn fun to watch everything go down. And okay, I gotta say, Nina's picked up a few things from her mom, right? Like
Yeah.
Sandra, she knows how to socially play this game. But one thing she did not pick up was a poker face. Like, oh my
Very
god,
true.
were you as uncomfortable as I was, like watching her going, these faces she was pulling,
Yeah, she was
trying to
doing pretty
figure it
much
out.
everything but eye rolling.
Yeah, well, she just did not wanna say a name, like, and it was
Right.
great because Jordy's just sitting there cracking up, like, "No, you're gonna have we're not ending this until you name somebody, because if
Well,
they don't name someone, it's
ultimately, it
gonna
was
be them."
Haley that named her, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you know what? In the end, that works out because we see it through follow through that even though Sam's name was put out there, Nina still has a relationship with him, and Nina still could put enough pieces together that they were working together afterwards. So, I know Sam wasn't lurking there in the jungle watching Nina do everything she could to not name a name. Um, but maybe the mojo's out there that she can still be trusted.
Well, and it seems to me that that was one of the mistakes Jordy made at Tribal. Is he should have brought out the fact that they picked the name. He didn't pick the name.
And that is something I truly wish Jordy would have at least mentioned in Tribal, especially once he realized that this tie was orchestrated so that there was going to be a revote, like that his
Right.
goose was cooked. When he knew that, just as like a last, it wouldn't have gotten him out of the tie, the revote, it wouldn't have got him out of it. But I mean, yeah, okay, I suppose he could have done that. But you know what? Even though he does like to talk about how he likes to create chaos, one thing that we have seen with Jordy, especially in this season, is that he is really about like fair game, right? Like he got really upset and annoyed with Simon and George and all their bickering, and he just kept saying this is a game and nobody should be taking this
Yeah,
personally
but
and this is for fun.
I went back and rewatched that, and he did that, and they weren't even sniping at each other that badly at that point. I think he was reacting to something that happened previous that we never saw.
Well, I
Because
did listen
what happened at the
to
moment didn't.
we did yeah, we saw like a little bit of tit for tat going on,
Right.
but on his one of his exit video interviews that he had done, he was talking about how the two of them are just that he's like it's incessant and it's just ruthless. They just get to the point where they're just it's he said it was too much. It was getting to be too much to listen to.
Right.
So I think there was probably a few more things said than what we heard, or a few more moments at camp. Um, but it's great because he's trying on his like dad shoes, right? Or in his case,
Well,
overalls. You know,
that was going to be that's actually the question I wanted to ask you. It's funny you say that. Does Jordy of last season play that idol? Does he even use the same strategy?
yeah, I think he does play it last season because he was consistently in the underdog position, especially in the second half of the game. And then he kind of became the leader for the underdog. So I think he would have made the move, um,
And,
because he
and
was very aware of his positioning in the game. I really honestly, he said that the plan right from the get go, like even to the point where Liz and he are speaking to Haley and Nina, that the plan was always not to play the idol. It was to hold on to those idols. So
but
they were
that's
really
not that
trying to
is.
make it happen without having to play it.
But was that really a good plan?
No,
You're a
clearly,
minority of two.
clearly
You
not.
have two idols. Play one. You still
Yeah,
have one.
yeah, but I truly believe he just thought he was in a better position. I think that he thought he really did think he was going to be okay. I mean, he looked to Liz and he was like, don't let this rile you up. Like it's going to be fine.
And
Um
it seemed like she came closer to playing the idol than he ever did.
and in the end she's reaped the reward. I mean, we didn't get to see it pan out this week, of course, because we had the spin that got thrown in, but
Right.
she was able to pick up where that crack started off and wedge herself in there. And I feel like she was putting herself in a really great position come merge. Um, Jordy didn't get to be there to see the work that he put in, but
Yeah, I don't get it. All the whispering that's going on and the
I
standing up and
I've
talking, and
yep, for the
he
life of
doesn't go.
me,
I'm playing an idol here.
yeah, for the life of me, I cannot understand. And you look at the newbie, and she was like, like this doesn't feel right. And he's like, no, no, no. But where it really got me is that before going in to tribal, point blank told Haley and Nina, if we think anything's up, if we think you're about to back out of this, your name's going down.
And they didn't. They both voted the first round the way he
Yep.
wanted.
Yep. But then when this whispering starts, it's like, okay, you know, and I think it was an intentional thing that we saw Shawnee last week make the comment that she made about the whispering, and we got
Right.
to see all the whispering to tie into our storyline moving forward. That here's all that whispering, and this is why Jordy is not as good of a player overall as Shawnee is, because here's the information we just saw another player recognize and make a judgment call based off of it.
Well,
And
she
he
not only made a
didn't.
judgment call, she correctly discerned who the target was.
Right. But like she said, a lot of whispering going on, like this isn't my first rodeo.
Right.
Um and Jordy should have seen the writing in the sand at that point. And you know what? Maybe he got a little bit like, maybe it's because he was up against who he was up against last season in Mark and Sam, who held on to those idols forever and a day. And
Yeah.
every time they looked like they were going to need to play that idol, they held strong and they didn't play their idols and they stayed. I mean, and
Yeah.
all the
And
way
when
through the
she went
end.
home, it was because they didn't bring the idol, right?
Right. So, I mean, maybe that really had a big part to play in why he, because you can tell it's like he loves the game, he plays the game to have fun because he enjoys it, but you can see he observes, and I think he studies the game, and I think he took the wrong lesson, and that lesson was that was just damn good luck for the two of them.
Well, even a good home run hitter strikes out.
Yes,
And he
exactly.
really did. He struck out bad. I mean,
And I was so disappointed. He's our first return player to go home, which is crazy to think we're this far in, and he's the first one.
well, that just goes to show you the poor quality of the newbies.
Well, this is also part of something that you get every so often as a complaint of the Australian fans, is that they really do tend to recruit a lot of their players. So they're not getting, whereas in the US we kind of stopped recruiting, 12, 15 seasons ago, because the fan base and applicants were enough that we didn't need to go and like spot people and recruit them.
Right.
Australia still does it. So you bring in people like
Well, like
Paige.
Rogue,
Yeah.
who clearly didn't want to be there.
Right. Yeah, right. And then Paige, who had never watched the show. I mean, she's never watched the show. She didn't know the game. So,
Yeah.
it shows. You've got these newbies, and a lot of them are like, huh, what? I don't know what's going on. But Liz, bless her heart, she's still there. She's made some good moves. She's partnered up with some return players. We're going to see where this week ends up bringing her.
Yeah, I think the promo's overblown, but we'll get there.
Yes. I'm just a few little notes on that this episode 10 that I thought that were worth mentioning, or at the very least, pretty darn fun. I don't want to leave out the coffee buzz montage because that was excellent. It was
Yes.
so fun. And you imagine, these guys have been out there playing what, pretty much already past the
I
point
think
of
they're on
a,
like day 23 or 24.
so they're past a new era US season, right?
Almost, yeah.
So, and this is their first real boost of caffeine in weeks, and it stands to reason that they would be just zippy. It was like more funny than watching when everybody gets the beers, like
Yeah.
it's just really wired. So, yeah, I wanted to bring that in. Also, I wanted to bring in, because I laughed so hard at this, but at Tribal, when they open it up with like Sam's big speech about loyalty and friendship, and like, like how close knit they are, and everyone's faces where they were like, oh my God. And it's like so great because this guy is like just pouring his heart out about how much the game means and how much they all mean to him. And yeah, sorry, Sam.
And I don't know if I can call, Simon with the fake idol, right? And
Yeah.
people have been calling it the cookie idol, and I think
Yes, the
that's the
cookie
wrong
idol.
name. I think it's the ass idol, and it should forever be the ass idol.
It's always in butt cheeks, for one.
I mean, for God's sakes, the man carried around in his butt.
But he did take it out of the cookie jar, and Australia does have, some pretty strong ties to the cookie lore at this
Right, the
point.
Cookie Monster and all
Now,
that.
let's bring this up. we saw Sean do something that I am always just adamantly against. Any player in any reality show or anything like this. And he said that he swore on his kid's life that they would keep Simon safe until merge because of the idol. And yeah, as a viewer, like where we're standing, we knew that that wasn't an idol. But when we find further down the line that he says, well, it wasn't an idol, so it doesn't count. Like,
Well, I think well here, but you got to know where Sean is coming from. And again, this is where, not having seen a couple seasons ago,
mm,
Sean got booted because David, known as the
yeah,
Golden God, gave
right.
him a fake idol that Sean tried to play, and he went home.
And was it George or was it Flick that
George said that.
pointed
This
it
is the
out to him?
second
Yeah,
time
right.
you've been, yeah.
So I get it. I see. Sean's a little burned. He's a little spiteful, but this is why you never swear on family, spouses, or children's or anyone loved. You don't swear
Who
on their lives in a game because it's a curse.
who
Even
was it who
if you
brought the fake wedding ring?
I don't remember.
Was
I
that
don't
Russell
remember.
Hance or was it Brandon Hance?
It seems like a Brandon thing. I
It
don't
was
know.
it was no, because maybe it was Russell, and
The the
he brought
whole
like
damn
three
Hance
rings, and
family.
he kept giving the ring and saying, "This is my wedding
Yeah, yeah,
ring,"
yeah. Oh,
and he had like
oh,
three
the
of them.
Hance family. The long tradition of being a-holes on reality TV. Yeah, I knew as soon as he said that though, I was like, even if I didn't know that this idol wasn't going to pan out the way he thought it was, I I knew right then and there he had cursed himself in this situation because it's like the second you do that, the reality show gods come down and curse your game.
Yeah,
So Sean,
and
because
and
here's the thing. If for some miraculous reason Simon becomes the GOAT or fights his way to the end and he's sitting next to Sean and Simon says he swore on his kid's life, it's curtains for Sean. It's curtains.
no, there's no doubt. But here's the reason he shouldn't have done it. At the end of the day, he didn't need to.
No, we
He
absolutely
had
didn't
he
need
had
to.
100% of the power. Sean had, or Simon had none.
Yes.
So Simon was going to have to do anything he said.
Yeah.
If he would
And
have
he
said, "Give me your idol and your pants," Simon would have had to have given them to him.
and
What's he going to do?
Simon already signed the contract, right?
Yep.
He already made the deal. I don't understand it. I like Sean. No, nothing truly against Sean. But I mean, other than I'm kind of mad at him for being the one that was smart enough to see how he could get Jordan out. But like, buddy, dude, you didn't have to do any of that. You put a curse on your game. I'm telling you. That's my thoughts on that. So, is there anything else outside of I think might be one of the best clips we get of the entire season, and that is them walking away from the challenge. Everyone's pocketing new idols
Yep.
because everybody was swapping idols. And they're walking out, and Jordy's got his flag, and he's trying to put that damn idol in his pants. And he looks back at Jonathan, and Jonathan just starts laughing.
I said, "Yep."
It was gorgeous. It was such a great moment.
Well, Jonathan has been wonderful on Twitter. I wonder if he's doing that or if somebody's doing it for him,
Well, whoever it is
because
that
he's like live commentating on the game.
whoever is the owner of the BlackBerry leaving those tweets is an entertaining tweeter, as it were.
There's no question. So Jordy goes home. Flash to the next episode,
Yep.
which they start almost immediately with the immunity challenge, and George.
And Simon boo-hooing because he had to get his best mate out of the game. Oh, stop it, Simon. Just stop it.
Yeah, well, that was what Jonathan wrote. "Oh my gosh, the pen slipped. I didn't mean to vote for Jordy." And that was hilarious. But then George goes in and with all this false indignation is like, "I declare war. That was a declaration of war, and I have
Oh, I loved it.
hostages.
I loved it. We have hostages. There was a wonderful thread on Twitter this week that was, the Matt chat, like U.S. Matt chat versus Australia Matt chat. And it was like, like butterflies are dead relatives that came to
Yeah.
say hi or
I
whatever in the
declare
U.S.
war.
Yeah, and then it's like I declare, I will murder all of your friends and family.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff.
But the funny thing is with George, that really was contrived. He wasn't really angry.
Oh no, it's all
It's a
screen
show.
time. Yeah.
It's like you know the show must go on. The George show must go on, and he needs a reason to be the center of attention. I thought it was brilliant.
Well, yeah, honestly, it's not in earnest because I mean, like, you literally just like bamboozled the man, what, 2 rolls ago, and like, you know what I mean? Like, he was joining forces with you in earnest, trying to earn trust with you. And that's another thing too with his post interview. Jordy was talking about how he really was actually quite close to Liz and Shawnee. Like they were his real alliance. He was far closer to them than he was with Simon. He knew quite early on that Simon was too up
An
and down.
asshat,
Yeah, he's an asshat. He is the Michael Scott of this office.
truly.
And and so when he decided to work with George, I mean, he knew it was a dangerous prospect, but he also knew, like, for a couple of tribals, this was like a real. He really wanted to solidify this. So when this happened in that tribal, he was completely bamboozled. So when we've got George standing there declaring war because you took one of his out, I
Yeah,
mean,
who he couldn't have cared less about.
he didn't care. How is Jordy like protecting his game at this point? He's not like at the
No,
only person,
Liz, you could have seen it because Liz was
right?
visibly in the alliance with him,
It's a
right?
Spice Girl, right? Spice
Right.
Girls for life. But you also had, maybe he could get a little bit protective and upset about Haley because for whatever purpose, George has her included in his end game. So
Well, I think that's happening. We'll get there. Let's talk about that at the end.
yes, absolutely. So yeah, we've got a declaration of war.
And then we
Uh,
go immediately to immunity, so we're going to have a good episode because they didn't even bother showing us the
there
reward
was
challenge.
no reward. We're
Well,
just
no, there
jumping
was.
into.
They filmed it.
Yeah, they were like, listen, we've got cheeseburgers or we've got insanity, and they opted for insanity.
Yeah, that's a Tara Candy in the chat thinks that George was irritated about the waste of an idol.
Yeah,
Maybe,
I mean,
but declaring war over that. I mean,
but I think that would have been more of Shawnee's response, right? Because it was her. I mean, it was her who gave it to them. It was her idol. Um, and like Jordy said at the very end, when he realized he just left the game with her idol.
well, before we move on, let's talk about how shitty it was for them to take her idol after they found one.
Yeah,
They
and
really didn't need it.
they didn't because they found it. At least we are led to believe in the editing, right? In the story
Right.
process, we got that they found this idol, or Liz found the idol, goes and tells Jordy,
Right.
and then they get
No, because she actually
the
says at
second.
one
Yeah,
point, she says, "Oh, we need them because two is better than one."
then one. Yep. So
So
yep,
anyhow,
you're
I just
right.
thought that was a little crappy. So so the immunity challenge happens, and George literally pushes a box like air pushing,
Okay, seriously, George
like
and
he was
Shawnee,
dog
like
paddling.
the two of them need their own sitcom. Like the
Oh,
George and Shawnee
I was
show is
just,
hilarious.
it was like I thought she was just gonna
They're like,
sit down.
yeah, they're just me. And I love it's like immediately the other tribes like they are throwing it. They could not try any harder to throw it.
Well, they weren't even hiding it. I mean, they were
No.
like, let's stop and have a chat in the middle of the.
Yeah, let's have a cuppa. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, they were having full blown conversations while everybody else is rolling this giant 2-ton block. Yeah, yeah, it was a very obvious throw. But again,
And
George
it was,
really does feel like he's sitting on the throne where he just
well,
doesn't have to worry about the repercussion for
if
these
you
things.
think about it, it's a brilliant play. Okay, because here's George's thought process. We throw the
Yep.
challenge. We toss one of the hero or hero adjacent people, right? and
Yes.
and then he knows that he's going to send home one of the hero, one of the hero people, and his people are all safe, as are the idol that Liz still has.
Yep.
So he kept all that safe by throwing the challenge. The only question I had is, why did they do it twice? I mean, because
Well,
well, and we get to the end. I'll tell you, I've done a little thinking about the numbers, and they're only, I think, one away from going into the merge with numbers.
oh yeah. Yeah. I yes. So, okay, so can we just cover like what are some of the things that happened during this challenge that were not challenge related? Because there was so much going on. It was chaotic. Like you've got one person whispering and one person's, I mean, like there was multiple people, right? Who else did we have that were like communicating across the lines? And then you've got like the Diamond of Destiny, and oh my god, it was just a lot. There was a lot happening.
No, it was.
Again, this is why I love that it's allowed, because I mean, like I've seen enough relay races in my life that, I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes people just fast forward through these challenges. But when you've got all this like interplay that's happening, you can't fast forward through these challenges, because like a really good portion of like how tribal pans out is happening right then
Well,
and there.
and I'm forced to wonder why it doesn't or hasn't happened on U.S. Survivor. And honestly, I think because pre-challenge, Jeff doesn't want
Yeah.
anyone to talk but Jeff.
Sure, sure.
That's
Yeah,
it. Jeff's going to
he's
talk.
hosting
He's going
it.
to introduce a challenge. He's going to, lay it out.
Yeah, the host is hosting. Production has a very like tight schedule that they're keeping, and then this is where the 3 nights a week give us room to breathe. It gives the story room to breathe.
Well, and I think Jonathan takes the initiative, and if he hears something interesting, he just steps back and goes, "Oh, let him have it. Let him go at it. It's fine. It's good TV."
Yeah, because they can always decide to not include this,
Right.
right? So, what do you think about when they get back to camp and they're getting ready to move into tribal?
Yeah. I mean, well, I think I wondered what George's strategy was going to be, and he certainly didn't lay it out. He just said he was going to give Flick a choice, which
Yeah,
he did.
a mutiny.
No, that's the third.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he's starting the mutiny.
yeah, but yeah, there was. I didn't think the middle part of the episode was all that interesting because I didn't even take another note until tribal.
No, there really wasn't a whole lot, and because we had so much going on in our challenge, and right before challenge, we kind of just bust right into tribal.
Yeah.
So
And here's where you got to appreciate George's game. You love him, you hate him, you can't stand him. Like Christy, who our co-host who is with us tonight, she really is bothered by his domineering style, right? But even if
which
you
I could
don't,
see. I
no,
could
no
clearly
doubt.
see it.
But even if you don't like him, you have to respect the fact that at Tribal they were talking about what he wanted to on his terms. So it
Oh
was
yeah.
all about whether Christie was going to burn her idol, which is like the biggest red herring ever, right? But nobody was talking about George, nobody was talking about Shawnee throwing the challenge. They were only talking about Flick burning an idol. And it
Yeah.
just
Yeah. And
it's
okay, I've got to say though, not only was George carrying the direction of everything. Okay, like most kings, if not for the backing of strong forces around them, like in the form of Shawnee, he wouldn't have the power he has. Because he's got Shawnee sitting there, he's got Stevie, he's got Jerry, and they're like the Manson family
oh
going,
yeah,
come on, throw it in the fire. Just come
throw it in
on.
there.
Just throw it in the fire. Just come
Yeah,
on.
even Jerry got in on it.
Yeah,
You really should.
Jerry. Even old Caudry Jerry.
He's only like 53, right? He's not that old.
He's just spent a lot of time on the outback, out under the sun in his plane.
And he's got his hair like in corn rolls or whatever. I mean, they're
Yeah,
not
they've
corn
got
rolls. They're
somebody
like braided or something.
braided
Yeah,
his
it's
hair
very
quite
odd.
nice. Yes.
But even he was on her. But you're right.
So,
They were just the Manson family. That's a very interesting analogy.
well, I think it's really funny that George really loves to work with this war narrative, right?
Right.
Like he's always using these terms of like going to war and mutinies, and he really is living in his own melodrama. Like he is. But it's working for him up until this point. Now, the funny thing is about this whole stupid cookie idol situation is
Well,
that
yeah, I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
is that at the end of the day, it didn't matter. Like it did, I mean, it didn't
Well,
really
no,
matter
no,
that it wasn't.
it kind of did. Here's why. Because had she trusted the people she was aligned with and showed the supposed cookie idol to Ben, Ben would have said, "That isn't idol, it's a clue to an idol, and that's I know
Yeah,
it is because I had
Ben would
one."
have, right,
Right?
and but she
Then she
did
could
not
have
trust Ben. She was sus on Ben.
right, but she could have agonizingly thrown it in the fire knowing it was worthless and gotten credit for destroying the idol that wasn't an idol, right?
So, okay, yes. So how it plans
She
out
couldn't have
for
known that, obviously,
right,
going into the trial.
how it plays out, how it played out didn't really matter one way or the other for that individual partition of the game. But like you said, had she shown Ben and she had trusted Ben, had been asked to see it, it is something she could have actually done a power play with to in her favor, rather than something that didn't actually damage her. It would have been something that she had in her favor.
Yeah, and honestly, Ben even said in his walk away interview, he said, he goes, "I would have known right away. It wouldn't have mattered one bit. I still would have gone home."
But man, we were waiting, right? Just for the sake of entertainment and as viewers, we have been waiting for a while to see this whole thing happen.
Well, and what amazes me is you go on Facebook and people are still like, "What do you mean it wasn't an idol? What wasn't a nullifier?" It's like, did you not watch the episodes?
Yeah, like I said, if he had just walked around the well and picked up a piece of wood, he might have seen it, and then he would have, known. In Jordy's exit interview, he had said, yeah, okay, well, there was no string on it. And he's like, but you see this thing, and it's definitely carved wood, and it's got this gem, and it looks. He's like, you don't question it a whole lot because I mean, it doesn't look like something that somebody just made made out there. So I mean, apparently, so for the people that have asked and said, oh my God, like did anybody say anything to them? Some people have brought up a good point where Simon takes a lot of heat for being a big dum-dum on this whole thing, but he did show Jordy, and Jordy didn't say, dude, that's not an idol.
More than Jordy saw it, didn't
Sean didn't say, dude, this isn't an idol. Where's the
didn't
paperwork?
didn't Sean saw it?
That's
Jordy saw it.
Yep. I mean, there's multiple people.
Who passed it? Did Sean pass it?
Yeah, because he passed it to Flick.
Right.
I mean,
Flick saw it, right?
Yeah.
So these are all people who played before. None of them went, "This doesn't look
Where's
right."
the paperwork?
Do you know what I almost
Where's
said?
the necklace?
Do you know what I almost said? "This thing doesn't smell right." And then I realized how funny that would have been.
Yeah, should have rolled with that.
Yeah.
But you're right. These are return players. These are not newbies to the game. So yeah, Simon is a big doofus, and like he says stupid things and gets Batman lines incorrect, and then repeats them over and over again until he gets them correct while making eye contact with the cameraman, which is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But
no. Do you think they gave him that line and he like practiced it and flubbed it, or?
They could have.
And by the way, he had it backwards, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Batman line is the other way, as
Right,
I was reminded the other night by a friend. of ours.
Maybe they were like trying to push that whole like Joker. I mean, they did last season a little bit where that you could tell there was a little shove to Mark to be like, oh well, you've got this Joker, and now we need to do like a Batman Joker thing.
And clearly they weren't interested, because you could definitely have done George the King, Shawnee the Queen, and the Joker, right?
Yeah.
And then Jerry could have been the wizard or whatever, and Stevie a knight.
Jerry the Wizard, I like
Yes.
it. The old Merlin Jerry.
Merlin, kind of just going around doing his own
His
thing.
magical braid.
Aging backwards, right? Isn't that what Merlin did?
Yes, start
He was
old and
he was
young.
younging or something. I don't remember the term that they used in the book, but
Well, now, okay, as far as Flick goes when she says, like, "I can't. I can't throw it in the fire, guys. I can't do it." I have to say, like, I was really wondering, is she gonna do it? But, good
well,
for her. Good
yeah,
for
good for
her.
her. Good for her. Look, Flick is a super nice person, and I like her as a player, but she's not going to win any men's awards. I don't think.
Yeah, well, she didn't
She's
even play it for herself, right? Because
she's not really a deep strategist, right?
she had the bets on that it was gonna be Matt's name, right? Like, she played it for him, or she tried to play it for him.
Yep.
Which,
Yep.
I mean,
So,
one points for him, I guess. I mean, it 1 points for her with him.
Ben is one that a season or two down the road, I'd actually like to see him play again because he definitely had
I
potential.
thought Ben was an interesting player. I was a little bit, I mean, it's not, I'm definitely not as disappointed as I was with watching Jordy leave, but I did enjoy Ben, and I was kind of curious to see how Ben's ego and George's ego were going to come together or push apart.
Right.
But we didn't really get a dynamic there. So, you know,
No.
I hope he comes back around in a season or two. And
So off he goes, and we move on to episode 12, where I hate to admit it was so delicious watching Simon get blamed for playing the false idol on
that
purpose.
man's mouth
I was
couldn't
just
have
like,
been open any wider.
look, I don't like him. I think he's the kind of guy that like gave kids wedgies in high school. He's just that kind of jerk. You
Well,
know,
I
I could be wrong about this, but that's just kind of the read I get on him.
now
And so
apparently it is said that he is a lovely person
well, maybe
outside of
he
the
is,
game.
but he's coming off on TV
I
like the
Here's my
devil.
read. My read is that Simon was the small, like, string bean, whatever, of his group of much bigger, broader, tougher guy friends that weren't really, really his friend, but like they just kind of kept him around as their little mascot. And he was the guy that's like, yeah, you can duct tape me to a tree, like whatever it takes to be a part of the group. And then he started working out and got bigger,
Yeah.
like that's my read. Like he kind of
Did you
grew into that new version of
did you
himself.
see in the episode he's wearing his banana hammock, which
Oh yeah.
apparently is
Yep.
socially acceptable, and he was standing behind a tree, him and Sam, and they both looked they were butt naked because there was like a tree
God
like
bless
going
you.
across
God
the.
bless you, Australia.
It was just. Am I watching Australian Survivor or Magic Mike here? What's going on?
I mean, there were a few racy moments in the first like challenge or two also where it was
Yeah.
like, that looks different. That looks like something else happening.
I'm
Um,
proud. I'm proud to say I didn't notice.
yeah, it was there. It was there. Go back, you'll see it. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Just to add insult to injury of us getting to our match hats is that right before we go into challenge and have that chat, we get this little like montage and confessional of Simon, like, oh yeah, being a hero is second nature to me, like I super belong here and everything's going great.
Yeah, it's like, and then they just all ripped him up. And I gotta say, I have not liked him all season, but I actually felt sorry for the guy because he just looked like he's like, I have no friends, everyone hates me, and I'm stuck here till they send me
This
home.
is the worst day ever, and he had terrible gas to boot.
Yeah, and yeah, oh yeah, and then they all eat the Chinese food. True.
Yeah, and I loved that whole like moment where Flick was like, yeah, so this is what happened, and just like the the look on everyone's faces, no
Well, because
less
Flick thinks for
Simon's.
sure it was done on purpose, and
Yeah,
so did
she
Sean.
thought she says like he stitched me up,
Yeah.
like this was definitely the plan. Now, I've got to say, if this was the plan, it would have been one of the coolest things I've ever seen executed successfully in the history of the franchise. Uh, but no. Uh, can we also just talk about how this silly cookie idol, not idol, became it just like it was just like one wonderful moment of serendipity after another. It's like they couldn't have planned for this to go the way it
I'm
did.
willing to bet any amount of money that next year in US you have their version of the cookie
It's
idol.
it was just it's too much, and I mean, like, I think they got way more out of this than they'd ever assumed they
Well,
were
the
gonna get.
interesting thing is when Ben found it, it did have a scroll that said it was a clue, didn't it?
I don't re I honestly I don't remember the
Okay, well,
scroll,
we'll skip this because I'm not
but
certain.
I do know that he did go looking, and then he found the thing with the symbol on it, so
Yeah. So the reward challenge was particularly unmemorable. They win Chinese food, and my first thought was they're all going to get sick,
yes!
and sure enough, they did.
You can't be listen, you can't be eating just like the regular, like, I've got a busy life diet and then have Chinese one night a week and not get a little tummy rumble. You tell me
Yeah.
after a month you're gonna just download gallons of MSG and there's not gonna be any repercussions? Just saying. Did you think that somebody was gonna find a clue in, like, again, another cookie jar in one of these fortune cookies?
Well, I mean, they sure played it up the way they shot it, and Nina wasn't giving that thing up. She's like, "You're going to cookie?
Yeah,
You
she
want
was
cookie?" And she's
babysitting it.
running her arm in there.
I loved how Sean was all like, like psyched everybody for a second when he
And
was like, it's a clue, like if you go out to the jungle.
Scott in the chat makes a good point. Why didn't the gal Mimi, is that right? Was that her name? Who was searching for the clue in the cookie jar and
Yep.
got caught? Why
Yep.
didn't she find it? Is it because it was shaped so much like a cookie that
I think it's because she was, first of all, she was doing it in the
in the
black of
dark?
night. It was in, yeah, it was, everyone was asleep. It was dark. And also, I think it's like the exact same size as those cookies were. Like, it's literally why it's a cookie idol, because it was shaped exactly like
Yeah,
the
I'm gonna go
cookie.
with the non-conspiracy theory idea that it was there all along and she missed it because it was dark and she was
Yeah.
trying to be sneaky. Because I can't imagine they put it in the next day.
Yeah, I mean, it was, no, I don't think so either. It was just she couldn't see it, and it, again, it was shaped exactly like all the cookies. If you're just pushing your hand through there, and then on top of it, you're trying to be like super, super quiet. Um, yeah, I think it's easy to mess. She
Yeah,
made
and who was it that was behind her? Was it Liz who was just like staring at her? She was
staring
doing.
at her the whole. Oh, that was so terrifying.
It was creepy, is what it
It
was.
was so terrifying.
So off to the immunity challenge they go, and Simon offers to sit. Okay, wasn't told to sit. They didn't
Dumb,
vote him.
so dumb.
He just said, "Okay, I'll sit." And then
Well,
they
and
proceed to throw the challenge, and he looks like so
oh my god.
sad and
He
helpless.
has
And
to sit there and he has to watch it happen, and he cannot, he just, okay, I've got to say it. Do you know what Simon reminds me of? Every season you get that one, like, usually is a recruit player in Big Brother.
yeah,
He is a Big Brother player, right? Like, I don't think that he's at Survivor level.
right.
Because it's
I
like,
can see that.
buddy, no, why would you sit out right now? Like, if all season, this is the one time you absolutely need to be in there to fight for your life. But this
Yeah,
is Simon.
it was odd, and they throw the challenge. Now, here's an interesting thing, and I'm fine with throwing the challenges. Some people really get upset by it, or it
I
ruins the
it's
integrity of the show, or
nah,
and some people won't vote for somebody who throws a challenge. Okay, that's their option as a player if they don't want to honor that move, right?
sure. But I
Right.
think throwing a challenge, if you're doing it at the right time as a strategic move, it's excellent. I don't like when people are
Right.
playing a whole
But
game like
but
that.
imagine this. Imagine we go to this challenge. What was the challenge again? I didn't write it down.
The memorization where they had to
Okay.
memorize
So
the
imagine they're both trying to throw the challenge. How does it ever resolve?
That is when Jeff gets flown into Australia.
Yeah.
Walks right out onto the dirt plank. He pats Jonathan on the shoulder. He's like, I've got this one. Yeah.
That's funny. So they throw the challenge, and Sean's concept is they're sending home Simon, right?
Yeah, they want to split the votes 3-3 between Liz and Simon.
Right.
And
Right,
then
because
have
they know
Sam.
Liz is holding an idol, so they're hoping she's dumb enough not to play it.
Right. And then in case they both play an idol, they're using Sam as the other vote.
And then Nina hatches her secret plan
Yay, and Nina getting in there, playing some game.
to go after Haley, which I don't quite understand because I think she'd have been better off going after Sean. But that aside, okay, she gets in there and she gets her 4, maybe. I'm not 100% sure she had them, but the
Yeah, I
edit
guess
we don't
know. Right. We don't know for sure. It did feel like she had it though, didn't she? I mean, it felt like
it felt like, well, no, the edit certainly felt like it, but here's why I don't think she had it. I think George and Liz and Shawnee have talked enough that he's convinced Haley's coming over to them at the merge.
Yeah.
Okay, so she would know that, and she would see her as a number. So the smart move, if you expect to go back to that alliance, is to get rid of Sean. So
okay, I'm going to say 100% on what you said. Had I not seen anything going forward, in the fact that we're led to believe, again, it's hearsay at this point, we're led to believe that looks like Liz is going to have a little bit of a problem with this whole, no, we're keeping Haley. We're going to work with Haley.
I will make
So
you a no money bet that that's much ado about nothing.
So, but maybe George has talked to them about it, but also maybe he hasn't. Or maybe Shawnee and Liz have spoke on their own and they're like, okay, we're going to let him believe this, but we can't let that happen.
Well, maybe. That's fair. But again, my point is that I've watched enough Survivor to know Nina didn't have it locked up and it wasn't for sure going to happen.
Right. Yes.
And sadly, Nina, I like Nina. She's great. She got hurt the first episode last year, so we didn't really, or second episode, first, I think.
Oh, right? No. She made it. She was in there she was in there like what, merge? I mean, her mom went home day 16. Yeah, her mom went home.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so you're right. So
she
was 16, in for a while. Yep. But my point is she gets hurt, she leaves. She didn't really do anything all that special last year.
She did not get to stretch her Survivor wings.
And voting your mom off was a big move. Right, now I recall. Yep. Okay, but then this season, she's done literally until this episode nothing. And it's like on the Twitter and on Facebook, all the sicko fans come out. She's played the greatest game this season.
Huh? Well, I'm going to say this. Okay, these are just some observations that I have. One observation is she's the only person that's been allowed to conserve every calorie she's been taking in. She isn't having to compete. She's not exerting her body nearly to the amount as some of these big guys are who need to cut, some of these, like Sean, how many calories do you think he has to take in to stay awake and energized? Like a ton. So she's conserving there. She is getting to sit back, observe games. She's just voting with the right groups of people. She's not stirring anything up to get too much of a bad reputation.
Okay, but you could say the exact same thing about David.
Yep, you absolutely can. But I think,
and you could say the same thing about Sam. I mean, they're all playing that game.
But David and Sam have both had to play in almost every competition because they were muscle and might. Right. So there's I'm not saying that this is great. I'm not saying it's good gameplay. I am not defending that it's good gameplay. But what I am saying is that we get into merge and we start fighting for individual immunity. And now she's an equal footing.
I have seen nothing that leads me to believe she's going to be a merge challenge beast. Nothing.
I think she opened. I have no proof to say that she is going to be.
In a season and a half, I've seen nothing that leads me to believe that she's going to be in the top 2 or 3.
But here, and you're not going to like this, but here's my other observation. Again, this is neither a defense or or offense on what she is doing or what might happen down the road. Just observations. She is not Australian. She is from the Survivor family. She is from the US Survivor family. And
Right.
her mother have seen what the new era has brought and who those winners are. This is a different game. It's longer, it's tougher, it's a little bit, it comes from different angles. But they have seen that the people that sit in the background, these smaller framed girls who don't seem to do as much in challenges, they're not in the forefront of the game, come in at the end and cinch it.
Well, we've had that happen in Australian Survivor only once, which is the very first season of the new run, where Christy came and stole it at the end. Um, but you've had Brooke, you've had several others, but those gals were, I mean, absolute challenge beasts.
Right. And
You know,
I'm gonna be honest, this, like I said, this is a different set of ideals in Survivor as a whole. Um, I don't know that somebody who wasn't a challenge beast could sit at the end and say, I was with every single right move. I didn't make a single mistake in this game, and here I am,
well, that
and
was
win
George.
it.
That was George a couple seasons ago
And
up
it
against
was,
Haley, who went to Redemption Island, won 3 challenges out of the
yep,
last 5, and
yep.
won the game.
And
And
it
I just
was,
don't think I
was
don't
it
think that.
Christy? Was it Chrissy last year? Same thing.
Yep.
So I don't. As an observer, I can see where there's all these points that actually make sense for it to look like a really great game, and it's not a bad game. But I don't think it's going to be the game that's needed to win Australia.
Not yet, anyway.
No, we'll have to see where it goes going forward. But she does have a few things that have helped her out. She has come back around. She has made rebonds with Sam. I think her and Sam are going to be tight. I think it's okay. She has worked across the line with Liz. I think her and Liz are going to be okay. That
Well, see,
doesn't mean that
I actually think the smart move for her is if Haley isn't going to jump, she should jump.
yeah. So let's move away from our cookie idol.
Yeah.
We need to just maybe jump into, do we need to go into our final challenge, or do we want to just go right into
I
that
mean,
tribal?
I don't even know that the tribal was not all that interesting because of the twist.
Okay, but I do have to say there was one moment in the challenge, like far worthy of all things, and that was Stevie and his circus trained seal maneuver.
Oh, that was awesome.
It just goes up.
Who was he up against? Liz? And Liz is like, what the
Yes.
fuck?
And she just starts laughing. It was
Yeah.
great. It was so great. But yeah, so we have our challenge, and we're off to tribal. And we were talking about, it looked like Nina was maybe able to put this together, but we didn't get to see it
Going into
because
tribal, in my head, it was no better than 50-50 that was happening.
that's kind of where I was at. I would say I was maybe a little bit more optimistic, like maybe 60-40, but not by much.
Yeah, because I've just seen enough of it where they make it seem like this thing is locked and then it's not.
Yes. Yeah. And okay, and like sometimes we get these episodes in Survivor, right, where it's fairly cut and dry. But it's
They
not so much anymore. Nowadays they really try to throw you off the scent. Um,
so
which
they
kind of
show
leads you right back to the scent.
so they show up at tribal and immediately Jonathan throws a spanner in the works and goes, "You're not voting for anyone to go home. It's a mutiny. It's a mutiny.
Mutiny.
Rumble, rumble, rumble. Mutiny, mutiny, mutiny." I'm sorry, I had to do that.
And you can hear George clapping from the forest. Yay!
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe if the previews, he may not be as happy about it, but
Well, what do you think? Okay, so I kind of liked how it was
well,
out. Like if we have one person's name go down, then that person is going over to this tribe. Two, we
they
have to
do a
draw
tribe
lots
swap every
every
season,
season.
and
Yep.
there's going to be another one. Um, there will be another non-elimination
But see,
vote.
last season it wasn't by choice. Like you didn't get to put your name down if you wanted to
Right?
swap.
No, no,
It
no.
was
That
a
was the
forced
change
hand.
for this year, right?
Right. So what do you think about that? If two people write their names in, then we have to draw rocks
Right.
to see who goes. If
Right.
nobody writes their name down, we
Well,
draw
nobody's going to
rocks.
write their name down because they know that the Spice Girls are over there and they're going home.
Do you think that Liz made the right choice?
Well, I think she should have played the Mark move and stayed where she was.
I agree. That's exactly who I was thinking about when
Remember
this
when
was happening.
Mark made the decision
Yep.
not to go with his
Yep.
wife?
That is exactly what I was thinking about because I think that all she would have had to do is look over at Shoni and George, winked at them without her
Yeah.
tribe behind her seeing it, and it would have been fine. She would have been good.
And the fact that the only advantage for her going back is she's holding that idol, but I think she's got to give it back to Shauna.
Yeah,
She's not going
because
to be able to keep it.
I mean, yeah, but she hasn't told them she has it.
But they know she has it.
No, well, her tribe knows. Yeah, like the one
But the
that
point
she's
of the matter
currently
is,
on.
she's going to have to fess, and if she gets caught in that lie, she'll go home
Yeah.
for sure.
Now,
So
if they go into
she's giving it
merge,
back.
if they go into merge and they, yeah, and it hasn't been said, somebody is going to say it in merge. But it might be really great for her with her relationship with Shawnee is that she, say, yeah, he left with your idol, it's gone, but I found one. And give that to her. You don't have to tell her when you found it.
She's going to have to give it to her.
Or that we're going to play it for, we're going to hold on to it for when we feel we need it, whatever the heck, But she's going to have to know that it's there. But if she does play it as like, oh, I found this after the fact, then it's like this really great mark of good faith and responsibility within the alliance.
But a very easy lie to get caught in.
Yes, and that's the danger because if she goes into merge and anybody else
and
on
Nina
the other
says
side,
they showed us two idols, and
yeah, so
I think she tells the truth and gives her the idol.
I think you're probably right, but I don't think that they're going to tell George.
It's funny when every time I say "give me the idol," I was like, "No, throw me the whip. Give me the idol. Throw me the whip."
So, okay, so the girls probably will work together. What do you think with how far are we from merge? We're not far.
I think merge happens not the first episode, so not episode 13, but episode 14. So I think you've got one more kickoff.
Yep. And then we're going to come together.
Yep.
So in this very crazy week, who would you say is the player of the week? Let's tally our really weirdly even votes because we're missing our third player. She's out this week and hopefully can return next week. But let's see. What are your thoughts? Who's your vote for player of the week?
My vote for player of the week is Liz.
Yeah.
Because I think she is very, very well positioned with both the Spice Girls and some players on the other side.
Yep.
To move forward in the game, and she has options. We're like George and Shawnee really only have one option, and if it doesn't work, they're both going home.
I agree. Yes.
And
I mean, I would almost throw Sean close to being into player of the week. But honestly, Liz is up above him, especially once he realized he was duped. But he wasn't really duped. Simon was duped, and he was duped by proxy. But
well, I know, but he feels he was duped. I mean, you're never going to convince that man he didn't do it.
Well, yeah, I think moving forward, though, he's not going to be player of the week because he cursed himself. Mark my words.
We didn't talk about this. Was it right for Jonathan to explain what the cookie idol was?
100%.
Was it?
Yeah,
he kind of saved Simon, and that isn't cool.
I think that it was absolutely okay because it had already been found. Other players had already been found. It wasn't the only one that was in play that existed.
Yeah.
But because like Ben, like he had his and he,
I guess,
he played
but he sort of got Simon out of Dutch,
Yeah, a little bit, but not really. They all wanted to get him out anyway. Yeah. Like, let's be honest. They just needed this like nod to have permission. That's it. Okay, so maybe if it was a more likable person they were working with, then yeah, but it's Simon and they were he's the penguin on the edge of the iceberg. They were already getting ready to push him to the polar bears.
So, who's your vote for worst player of the week?
Well, it's got to be Simon.
Clearly.
It's got to
Saddest,
be.
saddest, worst, dumbest.
That is a bless your heart case, if
Yeah.
ever there was one.
Yeah, I feel bad for the guy. I
Yeah.
feel bad for the guy.
Well, we'll see how he turns his game around or just plummets to the bottom of the ocean.
So before we close, let's talk about the merge situation. So assuming there's one more kickoff, which is how I'm guessing based on what I've seen you're going to see, is there's 6 and 7 right now. So there's 13.
Yep.
So I don't think they're going to merge on an odd number. So I think one more needs to go. And if you're George and Shawnee, you want that to be probably Matt.
Yeah. Yeah. On
Okay.
that side, yeah.
Yeah. Or really on the other side, you almost don't care as long as it isn't Haley.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
right, so right, because so then if that happens and Haley comes over, which George seems convinced she will, now that alliance has George, Shawnee, Jerry, Stevie, Liz, right? So that's
Yep.
5. And then if you add Haley, that's 6. So that means they're at parity. And that's why if George is as smart as I think he is, he would be trying to flip Flick now.
Yeah, and
but it looks like he wants her out in the edit.
But he was trying to. I mean, yeah, he was saving his own caboose, but in a way, he was kind of opening that door. He was doing the same thing to her that he had kind of presented with Simon, right? If you do this, you come into our protection.
But so if he can bring, then maybe he tries to bring Matt around. And if he gets Matt as part of the alliance and Haley comes over, now you got numbers. And you just,
well,
the meat train goes out.
I think that they need to pay less attention on who they are bringing in, because my theory as it stands right now is that they have an extreme wild card in their hands of Stevie.
I don't think so. I think Stevie,
you don't think so?
Stevie is going to be loyal to the last day for George.
You think so, huh?
Absolutely. When he looked at Simon and said,
but
we
okay,
are clearly
let's
not
remember.
Friends, and he said to George,
Yeah.
I am so impressed.
Now, he might be with George. But you know who he isn't? Is Shawnee.
Right, but I don't...
Because he's got a vendetta.
Yes, but I think at the end of the day, he'll be smart enough to realize that if they have the numbers, get the big dudes out, get rid of Sean first.
As long as he doesn't want to throw any smoke and mirrors, right? Everybody has to go, no.
And they're out gathering crabs for, new alliance members.
So, okay. So let's go real quick here before we close out. We need to go through our Jonathan goodbyes for the week, because this has been his best week.
I only have the first 2.
Okay, well, I've got all 3 of them, but I gotta say, I honestly feel like this is his best week of these things, and I bet we're both gonna vote for the same one, but we're gonna go through them anyway. Why don't you go ahead and read the first one?
Well, at the end of episode 10, Jonathan says, if you're going up against a stacked deck, you better play your ace or say goodbye to your joker.
To the joker. That's a good one. And then number 2, we have, sometimes a genuine deal is better than a fake idol. Which is just solid advice. That's just solid survivor advice. It's probably the most helpful thing that he said in weeks, in all honesty. And number 3, we have, one of the lost dogs just found a new home. Will the lost dog left behind survive, or will they need to be put down?
Yeah, I'm going with the joker.
Same. I think this was a pretty easy one to pick the best, but it was a good week, and I liked all 3 of them. Jonathan, keep it up. Jonathan's writers. Yeah, Jonathan's Twitter master.
That's awesome. So Scott in the chat wonders if Haley and Flick might join forces to oust George sooner rather than later. And I don't think so, because Haley and Flick didn't play together. It's two
I
different seasons.
I
Okay.
I think George is making. I mean, again, I have
Oh no,
not
they
seen
were.
their previous games, but I think George is making a huge mistake in this like die-hard view that he has of getting to her and keeping her. Like I think,
Haley.
yeah,
You know why he
yeah,
wants her? Because she beat him the last time, and he
yeah,
wants to beat her. He wants.
yeah.
He will take
I
her to final two to try
I
to beat
think
her.
he's. I think his tunnel vision on this might bite him in the booty, but I think Haley would be thus far, except for this last time, it didn't seem like she was really on to anything that was going on with like Nina and Sam and that whole thing. But for the most part, it seems like she's done a pretty good job of kind of just watching. She knows when people are up to things. I don't
But
know.
yeah,
I think George
Flick
might
and
be making
Haley
a
though,
mistake.
as I recall, were not that tight. Let me see if I took a note.
I feel like George's ego is going to blind him a little bit in his desire to get revenge on, the Haley.
Jordy doesn't want revenge. He wants to beat her at tribal council. I think.
Well, that's what I mean. He does want revenge.
No.
He wants to win over her.
So here's something that's interesting.
Redemption, as it
But
were.
here's something that's interesting is last year they went to final three to tribal. It's the
Yep.
first year they've done that. Every other
Right.
year has been
It was
final
always
two. Do you
two.
think they go back?
No,
Or do
I
you
think they'll
think
do
it's
3. I think it's going to be 3.
it may be.
I think it's going to be 3, and we're either going to have 2 returnees and 1 newbie, or 2 newbies and 1 returnee. I don't think it's going to be 3 across the board.
Okay, no. I would just check my notes, and Scott's correct. The final 3 of season 8 was Flick, Haley, and George.
All
And
right.
and Flick went home at 3 when Haley won.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
But I don't recall them being that tight. Maybe they were.
I really do think that there's something with the idea of having someone like Nina and having someone like Liz on each side of this too. I think it's going to create a little bit more division in the returnees that we haven't seen thus far, because the returnees, I mean, even if they're picking on each other, do seem to somehow just stick around.
Here's the thing. If Haley gets a whiff of what Nina was pulling on her, she's gone.
She's toast.
She's toast.
Yeah.
And so if what did she have? She had David.
Yep.
She had Liz, and her fourth was who?
Sean. No, wait, that's the other side.
No, it was not Sean. It was
No,
not
that's the
Simon.
other. That's
So it had to be Sam.
well.
So
Well,
if
she
Sam,
thought she had Simon, and then remember when they were telling him about Sam or whatever, and then his like mouth hung open, and she's like, "Fix your face." When Liz was like, "Fix your face."
Oh, that was Simon.
Yeah. Fix your face.
Yeah, so I have to think that it's very possible that Sam goes and tells Sean, who tells Haley, and then Nina's goose is cooked.
Yeah,
Which would explain her really anemic edit so far this year.
Yeah, she's in a dangerous place for sure, but I'm
She's
still
not
standing.
getting a winner's edit.
There you go. There you go, Scott. Do you got that? She's not getting a winner's edit.
I mean, she's just not.
All right. Well, big news in the reality world. I don't know if you saw this today, but Big Brother Canada has canceled live feeds, and they will not be doing live feeds, which basically means RIP Big Brother Canada. Because I think viewership is going to be a rough one now.
What did something happen? I couldn't find that.
Well, they didn't give an actual reason why. They said because they're evolving. The game is evolving, and they're going to do digital daily updates where they do highlights each day. So basically, like we're going to show you what we want to show you.
Somebody said something, or
they haven't said why. I just think that it gives production. I guess from what I hear, Canada Big Brother is even more contrived than the US version in controlling so much stuff in the game. There's not a lot of really like organic situations left in the game anymore. So, you know, but it is interesting to all of the feedsters out there who, block off this 3-month time span of their life to follow these 24-hour, feeds and do these daily updates and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes, and if the show has any success without the live feeds, will the U.S. be the next one to follow suit?
Well, I don't know, because people subscribe to Paramount for
That's
it.
the difference. We do have a paywall here, so.
So, and just for those who are going to watch U.S. Survivor, and we're not going to podcast U.S. Survivor because our parent network is doing one, and Jamie Jo's on it. We're going to talk about that in a second. But my pick for the Survivor 44 winner is Josh. So I just want that on the record right now today. Josh is going to Disney.
Hold on, I have to look and see which tribe we got Josh on the Sooooo tribe.
Josh from the Sooooo tribe.
I have him gone pre-merge, so.
Well, then that it just makes my prediction even more.
So
powerful.
did that just solidify your choice?
It really did. It really did. And then my second favorite is Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah. Meh.
So
I don't have an opinion one way or the other really on that one.
But the player of the year is going to be Yam Yam. He's going to be great, I think. So
yeah, Jam Jam of Puerto Rico. His interviews have been really fun. Yeah, so you can go over to the Jay and Jack feed. You can go to the Jay and Jack a whole enchilada feed via the podcast, or you can go to the YouTube channel for Jay and Jack, and we're going to be doing Survivor US updates Thursday nights, usually right after the episode airs live. You can come in and join the chat. That's a short season.
But I will be taunting them from the chat, and Jack.
He will always be there to taunt. So feel free to heckle should that be your joy in life.
So speaking of taunting, I need to taunt the audience. Send us an email. I mean, Mom, if you're out there, send an email, would you?
Come on, Mom.
I opened up this email account with somebody. Send us an email. And
we just want to see. We just want to see what you got.
In case you forgot, is tallythevotesch@gmail.com. Tally the votes, that's a plural, ch@gmail.com. So send us an email just to say hi. Something, I'd be so excited. I mean,
yeah, what do you think of the season? What do you think of his season? Give us a Venn diagram of like Survivor, US, South Africa, Australia, like whatever you want us to chat about. Send it on over. You can like and subscribe so you can show up with us when we come around. We'll be here again next Thursday, same time, same place. Following Thursday, we're going to be running about an hour behind, but we'll be here then too. So take your notes when you watch. Let's hear it. What's your prediction?
Simon will not make the merge. He's gone. Next vote.
He says, adios, Simon. It stands to reason, but I kind of think Simon's going to be a goat.
Maybe.
I think he is. Just think he is. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see. Listen, even by the end of all of those seasons, Michael Scott got the respect he deserved. So, I mean, maybe it'll be Simon's fate too. We'll see. But until then, come on back next week and we will cover week 5. And you have a great week. And we'll see you then.
See ya.
Bye.